Oh
That means
dear.
I have to behave myself. Fuck.
No! Hello, everybody. If it's live
Ah,
now. Yes, we
jeez.
are live. Congratulations, everybody. We've made it. I'm going to go double check the YouTube. Make
We'll
sure
do it
everything's
live.
good. Yeah, we'll do it live. Um,
Your three favorite experts on everything.
yep. Always.
You fucking dismissed your invite. God damn it.
Yeah,
Misclick
so
really badly.
we are
Okay, we're
obviously
experts in
going to
everything
be
except clicking.
discussing the situation in Ukraine, but I figured I could add like a twist to it and talk about like we could also play War Thunder while we discuss the ever critical situation in Ukraine because that isn't tone deaf at all, right?
Not at all.
Um,
No.
but anyway, for those of you out of the loop, currently, and I mean, I don't expect anybody to be so out of the loop that you don't know what the heck is going on in Ukraine, but more or less, Russia is on the brink of like invading Ukraine. Um, and it's only gotten worse. Obviously, you know, there's it'll most likely, in my opinion, it's a good 50-50 chance. I could easily see Russia not doing anything because of how they've acted in the past. But at the same time, I could also see them going full on with it, especially with the recent news of them, bringing up their reserves. When you start activating reserves, and obviously people are making the argument, well, this is just the normal training for their reserves. Okay, well, the the exercises that they're coming to join are supposed to end in 2 days. That's very, very convenient timing for that. I don't know. There's just too much stuff pointing to it.
Absolutely.
Tons of there's a lot of military buildup and everything like that. And obviously, listening to any sort of media outlets can lead to a lot of problems because everybody has a story to sell. Um, because that's just how media works. It's lovely. It's so lovely that we have to do so much digging to try to figure out what the heck is actually going on. But effectively, Putin has called up a lot of the reserves. It's unclear how many because it's just been, very like we only know because of Russian media talking about it, but they're not talking about the numbers of called up. So the argument for it being just an annual thing is kind of normal, although I was hearing some rumors about people even in the United States being called over there to join up because they're in the reserves. So who knows? And I feel like if you're in the United States and you're getting called up, I mean, the annual thing has to be on like a schedule. I don't think it's sudden like this is. So who knows what that is going to entail, but yeah, it's always nice to hear. Today was definitely an interesting day to watch because you had the evacuation orders given, which were recorded back on the 16th at the absolute latest. That is the latest they could have been recorded. Also, real quick, Kiwi, I think I invited you to the squad. I'm not sure if you're online or not. Yeah, you're online, so you can go ahead and accept that invite to the squad.
Can you send another?
Huh?
Can you send another? Because I think I've fucked up somehow.
I have to delete the squad, so let me delete the squad and re-invite everybody.
There we go.
There we go.
Done.
So, Tyler, that includes you, unfortunately, because Kiwi. Hey,
Am I in?
Yes, you are. Kiwi still isn't.
God damn it, fucking Kiwis.
But yeah, so the situation's gotten pretty bad. There was an explosion reported about a few hours ago, a massive one. Obviously, there's been
Was that
shelling, so
the
there's a
oil
lot.
pipeline?
Yeah, and it's not just any old gas pipe like you might expect for city infrastructure. It is a major pipeline going from Russia through Ukraine and into Europe. So it is, I think, the only gas pipeline, like major gas pipeline, running to Ukraine, and it just got blown up. The proxy forces are claiming that it was Ukrainian saboteurs, but it's obviously the Russians that are doing it because they're trying to set up a false flag. That's what they've been doing for the past few days, is setting up their building blocks for false flag to try to create a pretense for attack. Obviously, they know they're not fooling anyone in the West. They're more or less trying to get the population on board with it. So, who knows if it'll work? It's very interesting to watch. Very interesting to watch. There were 2 explosions on the pipeline, and it might actually end up cutting off Ukraine from a lot of the gas reserves, and might actually threaten a lot of southeastern Europe. So we'll see what that does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's been very interesting with all the misinformation and everything like
what
that.
BR are we doing?
What BR?
Yeah.
What's everyone's max BR for tanks?
5-7.
5-7.
I've got an eyes too, so.
Let's go 4-7.
Sounds good.
No thanks. But okay.
But yeah, so you have everything going on right now with the whole situation. You have Putin doing that. What's really interesting with stuff like this is you have things that journalists will talk about, like the whole thing that happened a few days ago when Russia sort of said, "Hey, we're withdrawing troops." You had a lot of people on the ground saying, "No, they're not. We're noticing that their troops are staying in like they're staying near Ukraine. In fact, some of the withdrawals, they're going to bases, yes, but the bases are closer to Ukraine than they were before." So there was a lot of stuff like that, and you had a lot of oh, by the way, 4.7.
My bad.
All good. But yeah, you had a lot of people talking about that, but a lot of the nations in NATO were like, well, and again, I'm trying to take this from the perspective of just everyone could be wrong. I'm just talking about this from how interesting it is to watch how to what you're studying in college, how it affects international relations when these things become policy. Because you had, the nations and everything, their main statement was Russia's withdrawing. We're going to investigate this, even though the journalists, the people on the ground, satellite imagery was showing that that wasn't really the case. And then that tone shifted, and then you had the White House announce it. Even though that is information we had known for a day, that yes, Russia is still building up, the moment NATO or the White House announces, no, we haven't noticed this, we've noticed an actual increase in buildup, that is much bigger than merely people discovering that Russia hasn't withdrawn. Because it goes from people talking about it to now the White House is actively, the U.S. government is now actively calling Russia a liar, and now it is going to actively enter their course in terms of their negotiation, in terms of how they view Russia, in terms of how much they look at diplomacy as an active and viable option to solve this crisis. And so it's just very interesting to see those things. Like, Russia says one thing, people, journalists are noticing that's not the case, but the main countries, the governments are saying, no, let's look into it, and then they discover that, well, no, Russia was lying, and then it becomes their policy. It's interesting to watch that dichotomy and, like, what goes on when it comes to how nations react to each other, especially with like what happened yesterday with the U.S. ambassador getting basically kicked out of Moscow. That was insane. I saw that headline and didn't believe it for a second. I was just like, no way that's true. There's no way they kicked the ambassador out of Moscow. Oh, they did. And basically said, yeah, you guys leave us with no choice but to literally invade. So that was cool. And now Biden has basically said that he believes that Russia will attack, that there is no other, that he's already decided. So yeah, Tyler, you lost the bet from hell we had, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. It looked like I was gonna win it, and then someone leaked their plans early, and it got pushed back.
Yeah, it probably did.
So I won brownie points for, probably being right in the first place, but no actual rewards.
Yeah.
What are we taking where?
I don't know. I'm going to the most bottom spawn point with my M6A1.
T-34.
What a bottom.
Yeah, and the thing with on the international relations side is the way that Putin thinks about international relations.
Right.
So, is that he views, like, the Russian point of view of international relations in general is through the lens of spheres of influence. So, like, Putin wants to secure a sphere of influence in Eastern Europe, basically. Not like he's quoted as saying that the fall of the Soviet Union was the greatest tragedy of the 20th century.
Even though we had the Holocaust and everything, like.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that, I mean, yeah, I'm a communist. We have different reasons for thinking. I agree with that statement for very, very different reasons. The reason that Putin thinks that was a terrible, terrible tragedy is that Russia at that point had a huge sphere of influence going from Moscow to the Dnieper, to the Oder, to even to Eastern Germany.
Yeah.
And so basically, he's looking at a sort of revanchist position of trying to get that back.
Yeah,
and
it's
basically securing an area that he can,
one of the most interesting things
control
that I
buffers.
learned was you have a lot of the Russian, a lot of the people online, whether that's the suspected, Russian information war where they're basically using other people on the internet to spread propaganda or whatnot. They're basically talking about how, like, oh, well, NATO broke its promise to, hang on, little piece of garbage right there hiding. Anyway, like how NATO broke its promise from, like, expanding eastward. If you look back in 2014, there was an interview with Gorbachev, and he basically said that such an agreement never existed, which was very interesting to read, to hear. I was just like, huh, okay, like, because anytime that I've heard it, it's always just been in words, like, yeah, like, did NATO agree to this? And I was like, yeah, that's pretty scummy for them to do that. Like, I'm not a fan of NATO. I think NATO is way unnecessary. But
yeah, no, I agree.
NATO was made to counter Soviet Union.
Soviet
Union doesn't exist anymore. Why does it exist? So I think it's pointless, and it's only going to cause more problems. But at the same time, right now, I don't think that backing NATO up because Putin requires it is the smart thing to do, because it's merely going to weaken the countries that he wants to take out. Like,
well, basically, the philosophy of NATO now is an anti-Russia alliance.
Right. That's sort of how it's always been. I got in an argument with someone today because I called the Soviet Union.
And they've carried that policy through.
I got into an argument today because I called the Soviet Union Russia, and they were like, "No, it's not." And I was like, "Yes, it is."
Yeah.
Like, you can go ahead and try
it
to argue
mean
semantics.
It's not Russia. Like, you could use them interchangeably, but it's not correct in a technical sense. But I mean, it's a stupid argument to have.
Attention to the designated grid square. Attention to the map.
But yeah.
Oh, fucking damn it.
Attention to the map.
Alright, I'm just getting kill assists, I guess. But yeah, no, I agree. Like, with the whole thing with Putin, his goal is he wants to re-expand, Russia's sphere of influence. If that means taking over a country or just bringing it into the sphere, he's going to do what he needs to do. He's basically secured Belarus. Belarus is fully secured in his sphere. So.
Well, Belarus is part of the whole Union agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of like a weird sort of continuation of the USSR in some sense. So it's like a sort of shit EU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting. A lot of people are thinking that he wants to, like, completely annex certain countries, and I don't know. Like, I could see him trying to annex Ukraine, but not Belarus.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing with Putin annexing Ukraine is a bit far-fetched. I think the thing with Ukraine is that Russia still wants Ukraine as a buffer state. against NATO, basically, which is why his demand is that Ukraine never be allowed to enter NATO.
Right.
But they also do want some the strip of Ukraine to connect the Donbas region to Crimea, because, and this is the big logistic reason, is that Crimea is running out of water.
Yeah.
So the Dnieper is what feeds Crimea with most of its water supply, and that is in Ukraine. And since the annexation, the Ukrainians have been basically cut off the water supply, the fresh water supply to Crimea. So they can't irrigate crops, they can't have proper drinking water. They're fucked.
Yeah.
And so to take that bit of they're just starving them out their water. So to take that bit of southern Ukraine is important to the Russians.
Yeah, I think Russia, I think Putin's main goal with all this, I don't think Putin is crazy enough to want war. I don't think that's his goal at all. I think he wants a peaceful resolution, but he also knows that he can achieve what he wants through combat. And so he's willing to go that far. And he was banking on the idea of the world being so distraught after COVID and after all the economic stuff that it would just be like, okay, fine, Putin, go ahead, have Ukraine, you're good, whatever, you know? Like, that there wouldn't be a fight. But instead, what he got was sort of a unified...
I think he also underestimated how much Eastern Europe hates him, basically, how little strength they're willing to give him. And basically, Russian action is united NATO against Russia, which is it's almost unheard of.
It's given NATO, because I felt like NATO was sort of just a big spooky word that was thrown around with international relations when back before Russia was really trying to go after Ukraine. But now NATO seems to have this renewed purpose, and I don't think Putin was expecting that. You know?
No, he sort of refreshed the idea of NATO as an anti-Russia alliance.
It's completely backfired. I think he completely assumed that after the stress and sort of the disagreements within NATO during the past couple of years, especially thanks to the Trump administration, which brings up a whole other idea, that they would just not do anything, that they'd be so embittered against each other that there wouldn't be any sort of unified front. But now there is. And now Britain's working with Poland and possibly Ukraine to try to create a defensive alliance, which probably won't amount to anything, because the last time Britain guaranteed the independence of a nation that was threatened by some sort of authoritarian dictatorship, it resulted in a massive world war, and Britain did nothing to help the person they guaranteed.
Well, yeah, they did, but that's a whole thing.
Right. So
it's a different situation, but it has some parallels.
I'm watching people say that this could devolve into World War III, and I don't see it. I can't fathom the idea of this devolving into a situation where America is at war.
The only way that this can really devolve that far is if this does go to combat, and then Putin, for whatever reason, decides that Ukraine isn't enough, and he tries to keep moving.
Right.
I could see that potentially dominoing, just because then everyone would be like, "Oh, okay, well, he's not stopping, so we get to stop him."
Right.
But I don't think that's likely, and I don't think that Russia and Putin would be, especially now with what we've seen,
exactly,
dumb enough to go that far.
He would have to take out the Baltic states. He'd have to go out. He'd have to go after someone in the Baltic, and I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, the other thing that could expand it is if if it comes to force, and the Russians go into Ukraine, and then NATO, even despite Ukraine not being in NATO, NATO takes action against Russia, then that is a widening of conflict to a full European front, and that is where we're gonna get fucking nukes or something. It was it would be a much bigger deal as well if, considering there's 150-ish thousand troops or whatever on the Ukrainian border, as if that were not just on the Ukrainian border, but on the wider European border, like up in the Baltic and in the Belarusian Poland border. That is where you get a sort of you could divine some sort of intent to widen the conflict into a European conflict, a true full-on European conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few ways that it could happen. I just don't see any of them as like likely. You know?
Yeah,
like
no,
it's not
it's
impossible.
It's incredibly unlikely that.
It's not impossible, but
And
it's
the US
definitely not
they're
probable.
not going to go in.
The U.S. doesn't want war. I don't think Biden is going to do anything like that.
I think with COVID, nobody wants war right now.
No.
The logistics of going to war is insane.
It'd be a bit like the Scottish in 1340 being like, oh, look at these English, they're all fucked up with the plague. Let's go down and conquer fucking Lothians or whatever, and then bringing the plague back to Scotland, which can fuck.
Well, I mean, even just a citizenry moral standpoint, like, so many countries are struggling with COVID regulations and people being upset about that.
Right.
Nobody's going to want to add a war to the top of that that's going to make them even less popular.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, look at how difficult it is to get stuff right now. There is
What if
massive.
you draft all the anti-vaxxers? That's a good idea.
What?
Draft all the anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, they'd all die within like 10 days though. They'd all get too sick.
That's fine. Then they become biological weapons.
Exactly, it's a perfect plan.
What's interesting, like, if there was like a massive war, I don't know if even America's war economy would do too well, because no one can get stuff.
Well, America already is on a war
We can't manufacture like cars in peacetime or computers. We're not mobilizing a war economy.
Right, war is so much more complex than it used to be. We're not just dealing with mechanical parts. We have so much digital stuff, and Taiwan has become such a critical part of that infrastructure. Like, that's a whole other thing, is Taiwan and what China wants to do with Taiwan. Like, it's absolutely
definitely, but I
insane.
don't think it's like I heard there was a question asked of whether if Putin gets what he wants, do you think Xi will go after Taiwan? I don't think that's likely.
Yeah.
Not really at all.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely just the whole situation that it is right now in terms of just how things are going. Just how things are going. I could, like, there's definitely a
He gets what he wants.
yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff going on, so who knows?
Yeah, it's a huge issue.
Yeah.
They're getting more reports of multiple explosions in Donetsk and Luhansk.
Yeah, the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, or whatever they call themselves, that's the separatists. So
Yeah.
they're Russian-backed, but they're not Russian forces. So
yeah.
the tipping point comes when we see Russia's little green men in Ukraine.
So I want to get your
alongside
thoughts based on what you've seen and heard. Do you think Russia's going to do it? Do you think that they're going to go off and cross the border? Because I'm at a crossroads. I don't know.
It's a big question, but I think at the moment it's unlikely, reasonably unlikely.
Yeah, I still don't know. Like, the calling up of reserves, the fact that they have aircraft and helicopters like less than 20 kilometers to the Ukrainian border, the whole false flag stuff. Like, maybe Russia doesn't invade, but there's going to be military action against Ukraine, like, by Russia.
Yeah.
There was rumors, and I still haven't gotten them confirmed yet, of Russian military equipment basically was confirmed to have crossed from Russia into occupied Ukraine. Like, that's just a rumor, not confirmed. Sorry, that's my bad. But, like, there was a rumor that had
Basically,
happened.
that's what's been happening for 7, 8 years now. Basically, the Donetsk and Luhansk rebels are entirely Russian armed. They use Russian equipment.
Well, but there's a difference between insurgent groups using weapons from a country, because everyone does that, and actual like Russian operated, Russian branded,
Yeah.
equipment crossing the border.
Is it Russian operated or is it rebel?
That's just it. Like, equipment was definitely crossing the border, but was it Russian operated? That's the big question. That's sort of up in the air. There were also videos and pictures coming out of Russian troops getting parachutes for their armored vehicles.
I just saw a picture of probably a good 15 to 20 like AFVs with parachutes on them on a train.
Yeah. So who knows? Like, I think that we'll know by the 20th if something's going to happen, because the 20th is the last day of their drills. So if the 21st comes and goes and nothing happens, like, it depends on what the Russian army does once the drills end. If the Russian army stays, yeah, they're up to something. That's not going to help. But if they leave,
what might happen
I'll
is that
definitely.
there'll be a limited pullback. There'll be maybe 10 or 20 or 30,000 troops pulled
Right.
back, so they can say, "Look, we're leaving," and then they'll stick around.
I would much rather be made a fool than have war.
Absolutely, nobody wants war.
No. I'm just very concerned because from what I've read, from what I've seen, just not only from what I've read with the situation, but knowing Russia's past and how it's dealt with war and how it's dealt with crises, like, obviously this is apples and oranges. But when you had the July crisis, after Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, Russia began mobilizing its troops. It started moving troops closer to the border of Germany and Austria. However, when confronted by Germany and Austria about what was going on, Russia merely stated that those troops were merely doing their normal stuff. And they were secretly mobilizing even more and more troops, bringing up more and more reserves, and the fronts were getting bigger and bigger, and Britain and France just weren't listening and thought, blah, 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 blah. There's these documents came out after frickin' Russia decided to collapse in on itself, in the 90s. So, Russia has a pretty good history of pulling sneaky stuff. And
Oh, absolutely.
so I fully believe that, there's a chance that Russia is fully mobilizing and is preparing for war and is just, being all sneaky. But, it's still one of those unknowns. I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, apparently there's been quite a few retired Russian high-level military officials that say this is not going to be easy if it happens. Like, they're comparing it to Vietnam or Afghanistan.
I was talking to someone, I think it was Eamon that said it, where comparing it to Afghanistan probably isn't the best idea, because Afghanistan is much different than
And informations and all of that sort of stuff. But in the sense that it would be one of those brush fire sort of,
right.
like an endless war, the Middle Eastern endless war, that sort
Right.
of style, that insurgency sort of, devastating for the Russian army and the Russian economy, but also totally annihilating the Ukraine as well.
The big problem I have right now with buying into the idea that Russia doesn't want to go to war is basically that Russia isn't planning to go to war is basically what's come out of Russian media. Putin's basically said that the Russian news and Putin have basically said that the sanctions are coming anyway, sort of as saying we might as well, because no matter what we do, the Western powers are going to put sanctions on us, and we need to have our economic independence. The main reason for Japanese expansion in the Pacific and their massive amounts of aggression was because they wanted economic independence after the threat of embargo from the United States and the eventual embargo from the United States.
And gambled in that lot.
Right. So I honestly think that that Putin is preparing to invade. That all that we're seeing is a preparation for invasion, but it is definitely one of those worst case scenarios for him. That he doesn't want it. I think that even Putin in all of his insanity is
Putin's not insane. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Right. He isn't he's getting older, so there's always those questions of like, does he have dementia?
Yeah,
Does
he's
he
thinking
have?
about his legacy.
Is he slipping mentally? Like, there's those questions, but I don't think he's
And
gone that
the other
far.
question is he actually working with right information? In that he's been there for so long, and he's almost a Stalin-like figure now, in the
Right.
sense that he may not be getting the right information because people are afraid to piss him off.
Yeah, that's true.
But we've seen what's happened to the people who piss Putin off.
He kills him.
So
He's
well,
like
even.
he's like Stalin, but without the mass genocide.
Well, I don't know. We could be about to see that.
True, true. And there could be things going on in Russia that we have no idea about.
Absolutely. We have a very, very small, almost just a keyhole to look through into what's happening inside of Russia.
Right.
But the other thing with Putin is that he's looking for distractions
Yeah.
for the Russian people, because the Russian economy is the size of Italy. Basically, he's been in power for 22 years, and the economy has not picked up, has not done anything big. He's reliant on fossil fuel export to prop up the economy, but it's still not growing anywhere near at the potential that it has. And so Putin has to look for some way to distract from that. He has to like with the Chechen War and in South Ossetia, he needs a nationalist victory so that he can say, "Whoa, look at me! I'm a big, strong man. Don't even think about going to the supermarket. Don't look at the price on the vodka."
What? Price is going up? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So that's another motivation for him to not necessarily go to war, but to try and come out of the crisis well. Like that's why why this conflict has kicked off. Basically, that's the origin of it.
Yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully this all just kind of blows over and everything. But with everything going on, I don't know. I don't. Like I said, I'm 50-50 on it, but I still don't see a fully peaceful resolution. I think something in the borders between Ukraine and Russia is going to change. Does that mean that the proxy forces are going to gain more ground or lose more ground? Does that mean Russia's going to attack? Does that mean Ukraine is going to find a way to just appease Russia? Who knows? I don't know. But I don't see something. We don't get out of this with status quo.
No, absolutely. Something is going to have to give, and it's either going to be the Ukrainians or the Russians.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think probably what is a likely outcome, like something that could happen that might help diffuse things somewhat, is if Ukraine recognizes the Donetsk and Luhansk republics.
Well, didn't they already offer that?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
I heard.
Hey, let's go for B
talking...
point. B point. I'm getting an IM-24.
I heard someone talking about it, but I don't know if it was they offered it or if it was just talk about them offering it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility that could help in some sense, but also then what's stopping Russia after that just being like yoink? But that's kind of just kicking the can down the road, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just hoping for the best. It's interesting to see the build-up. It's interesting to see Russia denying it and all the different people running with every single little thing. You know, the different stuff that was going on today, like the evacuation order videos were recorded on the 16th. The 16th. Like, how do people see that and not realize, like, this is suspicious? Like, I think that Russia did plan to do something on the 16th, and they got found out.
Well, I don't know, because there's another thing in that going back a few years. That this sort of provocation is not. It is not something that is a one-off. This is something that happens basically every year. But the war drum just keeps getting beaten louder and louder.
Yeah.
It's a bit cynical, but
No, it's a good point that things just keep getting worse and worse, and it's definitely an interesting thing to look at because I don't know. It's a little bit unprecedented with the relations and the way that they are.
Well, it's also just the size of forces this time. Like, yes, they've amassed troops before, but I don't think they've ever amassed it quite to this scale.
Yeah.
Looking at this.
yeah, it is a scaling.
Yeah, it's scaling pretty bit. It just gets worse and worse every single time.
Yeah.
It's interesting to just watch Putin just go into an absolute, chess mode with it,
That's how he plays the game. And that's the other thing, is that he's the one who thinks of it as the great game, very 19th century sort of style. Fuck. But, yeah. I mean, the other thing is that it seems like the West is also pushing.
Yeah, it does. It's really weird to watch.
Like, all of the media, like, that's one of the justifications they gave for kicking out that diplomat. Is that it's the West who is pushing them towards aggressive action. I don't buy it necessarily, but there is something to be said for that.
Oh boy. Ah!
I feel like the U.S. in particular has to be like, there might be a sense that we have to be hard on him for this because there's been so many claims the past, this presidency and the last where Russia was so weirdly intertwined with American politics
Yeah.
or claims thereof, and nothing ever really came of that or happened other than people like kind of losing their minds for a little bit that was a possibility.
Yeah.
Or was actually happening. And so this might be the US might see it as something that like they have to actually put their foot down to show that they're not just getting pushed over by Russia and actually are responding somehow. And then once you have a figurehead like that, it makes it a lot easier for other countries to then, decide that they're going to follow suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is that I think medium powers, like mid-level powers, like sort of Germany and the EU, well, not necessarily the EU as a whole, but the individual countries within the EU and Britain, I don't think Russia accounts for them because they're playing the great power game. So they didn't really expect the level of resistance that they've got
Yeah, no.
from middle power.
Alright, I'm gonna go in my P50, my P47, and so I'll just do some ground support. You guys just let me know where there's stuff. And I just dropped my bomb by accident.
There's somebody still ahead of where you died, but I don't know where the fuck they are. I can't see them.
Oh yeah, they're the big train. Yeah, I'll take them.
Oh, well, they just killed me, so.
Yeah, they're in a good spot. I don't know why I wasn't able to penetrate them with the rounds I was using. Usually they're pretty easy to kill once you sight them. So.
Right. I think I hit him twice. I got a critical on one of them, and he just didn't fucking flinch. He's down at the end, probably towards C, it looks like.
Yeah, he's right at the end of the fucking road. But...
Got him. He's gone.
Nice. Oh, I got the assist for that. Sweet.
Sweet.
It's all wrong with him.
I got an air kill and a ground kill within seconds.
Nice.
Yep, there's a development. Hostile. And he's at the end of the road. I think.
P-47s are freaking great. I love them.
Protect the seapoint.
Alright, I'm helping you, I-16. Don't worry.
I feel him worrying.
Yeah, because I'm the one coming to save him.
Huh.
And I'm gone. My engine's dead.
You're fine. Just keep flying.
Yep.
Just glide.
Keep flying,
Yeah, see,
guys.
It's fine. I told you. Where was that Ostman?
He was
the
just
road.
he was on the road.
By where that
The beam.
train? By B?
What?
No, yeah.
Oh shit. Found him. He's dead. So is my driver. Ouch. Fucking AA guns.
Why would you do that to AA guns?
Is it a dickhole?
Oh.
Oh yeah, there's another really super cynical take on like New Zealand real politicking.
Oh,
It's
what's
like
that?
it's actually good if Ukraine gets a bit fucked up because they're the biggest agriculture exporter in Europe, so it's good for us.
Ah, for your guys'
Well, no,
exports?
I don't know where the fuck it started, but there is on Twitter like a huge amount of people that are like, it's good that Ukraine's getting fucked up because they're all neo-Nazis. And
Dude, that is
That's
such a
still Russian
weird thing.
justification as well.
up
that's
until
a
this
big-
point, like, I've never, that's not one of the countries that I've seen people, like, yeah, they were they were involved, but not really by choice.
Well, the thing
There-
is, like,
So
I
America-
haven't heard of Ukraine having, like, big neo-Nazi or supremacy movements. It's just all of a sudden they're like, Russia's gonna invade, and everyone's like, oh, that's good, they're Nazis. And I'm like, what?
yeah, no, there is a
Whoa.
huge, like, all those American neo-Nazis who are all with the guns and shit, they go to the Ukraine and fight with the Donbas Republic, or fight with the Ukrainian army against the DPR and LPR against fucking the Ukrainians or with the Ukrainians or something. They fight in that conflict
and then they get like
to
yeah.
get training for how to be better Nazi.
Yeah,
How
there
to
was
do
a
genocide.
lot of controversy about it. I remember that, but like, it wasn't. But that was back in 2014 when Russia invaded Crimea, and the dude who's involved in that got kicked out.
I've continued to.
Huh?
And there's the what's that fucking organization? The Azov Battalion. That's actually been incorporated into the Ukrainian army. So it's a full-on fucking Nazis, just who operate as a basically a feckless militia, doing whatever the fuck they want in eastern Ukraine, and they've just sort of been made a part of the Ukrainian army.
Yeah, I know that Ukraine has a policy where if you try to, where you try to join their foreign legion or whatever it is, you have to not have a history of being a neo-Nazi. Like it's specifically written into what their whole code is.
Yeah, but then there's just independent like neo-Nazi militias that truck around. But it's one of the big things in the Russian sort of propagandistic view is really making it out like Ukrainians are all neo-Nazis, that like Ukraine is infested with neo-Nazis and it's basically just a fascist state. But the problem is that just isn't true.
Yeah. Like, just because there's some neo-Nazis that try to volunteer with Ukraine doesn't mean, like, Ukraine should go to hell. Like, that's not what that means.
Well, no, but Ukraine does have a problem with neo-Nazis.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not nearly of the sort of scale that Russian media makes it out to be.
Yeah.
Like, they've got at least as bad of a problem as with the US.
Ugh.
We don't have a neo-Nazi problem. We just have.
Yes, you do. Shut up.
America has a pretty bad neo-Nazi problem.
Oh yeah, we have a fucking horrible amount of neo-Nazi problems.
Neo-Nazi
New Zealand has a
problems,
pro-Nazi
fascist
problem.
problems, hardcore communist problems, like the tankies. Oh god, the tankies.
I don't think they're that organized. They're not nearly on the scale as the neo-Nazis.
I mean, defending Stalin to great lengths is pretty comparable to defending Hitler to the same amount.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose.
Considering, like, Stalin specifically helped write the definition of genocide so that the Holodomor wouldn't be included is pretty scummy.
Yeah,
That's a
I
bit-
mean, look,
An understatement.
I'm a communist, so
There's a difference between that and defending Stalin.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, I defend Stalin on some points, but like, there's things that are indefensible that you
Right.
cannot just go and be like, it doesn't matter, because it does.
Like
And we have to
people,
learn
like,
from that,
it's
so
the
that
same
doesn't
thing
happen
as
again.
it's the same thing as someone saying, "Oh no, Hitler made all the mistakes and he's the reason why Germany lost World War II." I'll defend Hitler in that case. Like, no, like you guys are not reading. Like, where'd you get your history information from? The History Channel? Like, did aliens cause Germany to lose? What are your thoughts? You're taking history from the books that were written by the people who lost the war. Of course, they're gonna blame the dead guy.
It's like, what was the video I saw the other day, or a while ago now, about fucking, how all of the West German, like all of the autobiographies of all the former Nazi generals were job applications so that they would be hired by the Bundeswehr, basically. So they all threw the blame onto Hitler and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly what happened, and especially with the whole clean Wehrmacht myth. I'm so glad that has become such an understood thing that the Wehrmacht wasn't clean. Like, I've seen the flip side. Yeah. So I swear, whenever something comes out, like, you'll have this historiography perception, this perception of what happened. You know, like back after World War I, the perception was, yeah, Germany was completely guilty. They were the bad guys during the First World War. And then as time has gone on, information has come out that, no, Germany probably shares about equal blame with everybody else, because everyone was being a scumbag. The only innocent party is frickin' Belgium. They just got dragged into everything.
Yeah.
So
Belgium being best.
But what spawned from that is the extreme of the opposite side, saying that Germany is completely innocent of all wrongdoing. Which is completely false.
Which is wrong.
Right. The whole idea of, like, the bankers are making Germany look bad. Like, no. No. So with the whole clean Wehrmacht myth getting deconstructed, you've had another extreme, where every Wehrmacht soldier was evil. Because they fought for the Wehrmacht.
It's also not true.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's a problem. People
Let's go
want...
for C.
Okay.
But yeah, people
want
it's not
simple
even
explanations. They just want a binary, just sort of fucking, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy.
People don't like the gray area. People don't like morally gray, because we are the superhero of our own lives. We are the good guy in our lives. And so to read history and go, most people are in a gray area where they can do really terrible things while being a really good person. They don't like that because it makes them feel uncomfortable, because they realize that is the type of person they probably are.
It's
a
like
decent person that can do really bad things.
In general. The concept of soldiering in the war is being like, you're a normal, good person who is literally committing murder for the state. That's what war is. That's what's happening when you are a soldier. You are committing murder.
Yep.
But you rationalize it by saying, I'm a good person, I'm doing this for this, and this.
Religiously, I will avoid military service and any thing that might result in me taking another person's life. Because Like, that's just not morally right. Even, like, if it's in complete self-defense, and, you know, you have that fight or flight thing, okay, fine. But I'm not going to join an institution that has its main thing as killing other people. Like, that's just not what I'm... that goes against my personal moral compass.
Well, especially in a situation with like a military where you have no say in why you are killing those people or whether you get to do it or not.
Right.
Like with the the Russians example, if they do go to war, I'm sure there are members of the Russian armed forces that don't want to be taking over and killing Ukrainians, but it's not like they get a whole lot of choice to say no.
Yeah. They're basically stuck with whatever, you know, Russia decides to tell them to do. Whatever Mother Russia says they need to do.
Russia, great Russia, one and indivisible.
Do they still use... They don't use the Soviet anthem theme, do they?
Yeah, that's the national anthem.
Is that still the national anthem of Russia or not? I haven't
Yeah,
listened to it.
not the same words. They've changed the words to be more nationalistic.
To be more
Like,
nationalist.
they don't have to struggle at all.
Yeah, because the Soviet national anthem was more of a us workers are united, whereas the Russian national anthem is more Russia.
Yeah, we the Russian people. But also they changed it because it sounds fucking sick.
Captured most of the strategic zones. Attention to the designated grid square. Repairing.
Yeah, I mean it's a commentary on nationalism in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little nationalism can go a long way to fuck up the country.
Well, that sucked. I pretty much instantly died.
Rip.
Yeah, big ripperoni.
Attention to the designated grid square.
Ew. I'm happy with that.
I wasn't gonna win that battle.
I need to get fire extinguishers for my tanks. That's got to be just the first thing I research after parts.
I hate that the fucking the M18 is such a huge jump over the M10 in this game.
Yeah.
Because like I have the M18, which is great because it's like it turns so much faster. It's just a better tank. But I can't fucking afford anything else remotely near that bracket. So if I play my M18, I'm like 157, I lose it. I'm like, okay, I have a 4.7 against 60s. That's fine.
Yeah. That's why I like air battles, because you can take a 4-7 into a 6 tier and still do really well. But with tanks, that's not really the case. You don't have enough armor
Simple
penetration
armor penetration.
you don't have enough armor penetration or armor protection. It's a really bad combo.
Have you guys
There
ever
is
had
a
a Mexican beer?
what?
There's a Mexican beer, Sol, S-O-L. Pretty good. I thought you guys might have had it just with stuff, United States borders.
Enemy forces have captured us.
Not all Californians have had every Mexican thing. That's surprising.
Yeah, no, I just thought maybe you would have.
I'm not a big beer drinker, if I'm perfectly honest.
Is that because you're diabetic?
It's because I have taste.
Because you pretty much look like a hipster who was about to tell me all about IPAs.
Yeah, I'm more of a cider guy. I like ciders.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that works too.
Fucking
That works with the
peach
hipster
cider.
Have you shaved off your neck beard yet, Michael?
Yes.
I know I haven't.
I keep forgetting that I need to trim my beard, and so, you know, sometimes it grows a little bit too big. I don't like having a lot of hair on my face.
A little too Amish.
But I also don't like the way that I look when I don't have facial hair.
What is... Bitch.
So it's like I don't like having facial hair on my face, but I hate the way that I look without facial hair.
Right.
I spent most of last year with Sidebar. It was kind of the middleman sort of fucking compromise.
My chin just gets too itchy.
Yeah, it's funny. I spent the summer working, so summer in New Zealand being November, December, December,
Ow.
fucking all that shit.
Who the fuck is shooting at me? Is that you, Michael?
That was me.
It's so weird that summer down there is in the frickin' winter months up here.
But
That
the thing
always
is, it makes all
confuses
our
me.
holidays make sense.
What the heck was that?
What?
Someone shot me from the back.
Are you dead?
No? Now I am. Who shot me?
Where are you?
Oh, he's up on the hill in front of us. Careful, guys. He's gonna snipe you.
I'm getting out of Dodge.
Where is
Take
he?
cover. He's on the hills in front of you. To the right. I mean to the left. The left. I'm not gonna pull an Alfonso. Directly on that hill in front of you guys.
The one in the middle of the open space or the one by the watchtower?
That one.
Which one? Oh,
Oh,
that one,
yeah.
okay.
That one.
I'll try and keep him distracted on this side.
You don't see a fucking thing, mate. You just keep going on as you are. Just don't look behind you.
Yep.
Just relax. Fuck.
Are you doing alright?
Just working on his Harvey Weinstein impression.
There we go. Got him. What are we gonna call this fucking Ukraine crisis? Just the Ukraine crisis, or
I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
I think it's just gonna end up being called the Ukraine crisis.
but everyone's already calling it.
like for posterity, for history. And then we're Ukraine crisis 2, electric boogaloo.
I mean, I guess now's your chance to come up with a good name and get it to stick.
Yeah, come on, dude. You got one chance, Mr. Student of International Relations.
I kind of want to call it like the February crisis.
The what?
The February crisis.
Ah,
You know, harkening back to the old war, the Great War.
the old war.
I literally just spent about 30 seconds stuck on like the smallest rock possible.
Welcome to War of Thunder, everybody, where we have pain and suffering and pain and suffering. I think this might go down as probably the most tone-deaf stream about Ukraine.
I don't know. We could be in hot tubs.
We could be in hot tubs drinking fucking scotch and cigars, also in a hot tub. That is where you get real tone deaf shit.
We
No,
could
you gotta be
we
drinking,
could be a far right YouTube channel streaming this.
This is also true.
Yeah.
I took out his cannon. That Jagdpanzer
Oh shit!
What?
I didn't even.
On the left or the right?
in front.
Okay.
Right.
Who's shooting off to the left?
I was just trying to snipe the dude.
Gunner's dead. It's fine, I guess. I'm gonna try and creep up a little bit. See how this goes. Oh, just kidding.
Oh, Varshila.
There's a M24 bottom right, I think. I think it's M24.
Let's see. They see me.
So watch that side.
Fuck. He's looking at me. He's looking at me. Ah, he can't see me. He missed. He missed. I can't get through his armor.
I know.
Don't move barrel.
Got him. Lower plate, baby.
You... I tried, but fuck the barrel.
We need to put more pressure on the enemy. They're winning.
We got a big tank up above.
What?
Never mind. Small guy. The
Oh,
the
there's a bomb
profile
behind you,
the
there's a bomb
profile
behind.
looked like a Churchill.
Alright, I'm coming up behind you, Michael.
Okay.
Right, I'm back in action.
Ah, Panzer 4H. I overextended.
Well, you did have support.
I still overextended. Going into P47.
And fucking Panzer 4Hs are nasty.
Oh, there's a Panther 3 behind us.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and after this round cut the stream, but we can keep playing War Thunder because I think we've basically set our case for what's going on. It'll definitely be interesting to see, and I think that the next couple days are the critical moment where we'll see if an invasion happens or not. I don't think Russia will have the opportunity to do anything because they have so much going into upkeeping their military the way it is. They can't do it for much longer, you know.
I'm about to get circled.
Don't die, Kiwi, I'm coming. I'll be there in like a year. You're fine.
Hold up.
God damn, we had one job.
Yeah, I know.
That was great.